This is the Bose wall mount bracket kit. I was concerned about whether it came with mounting screws, and it does, as well as the necessary drywall anchors. Let's have a look inside. This is the extent of the instructions. First of all, describing what's in the box, the necessary components, a level, a drill, pencil, screwdriver, and drill bit. The actual instructions are pretty simple. Mount the holder piece on the back of the sound bar. Mount the mounting plate under the television. Drill that mounting plate under the television into place, either with the drill bits if you're going into directly into studs, or with the plywood anchors if you're going to drywall. And then finally drop the sound bar onto the mount. I'm going to give this a shot now. Also included in the package is a rubberized adhesive strip, roughly 1/16 of an inch in width, and about, what is that, maybe 4 inches long. It's unclear what that's used for, and it's not described in the instructions. So step one, here is the Bose itself, and the back of the sound bar, which takes the mounting plate, and it sits, let's see here, with the facing down. Does that make sense? Yeah, I believe it does. Yep, in fact there are slots for the mounting bar to fit in, underneath the holes. So if I fit that into the holes, it just slots on nicely. And then I'm going to just take the included screws and I will tighten them, but just hand install them initially. Okay, so then that kind of makes sense because we have a lip now on the back, right? And that lip is what is going to grab onto the mounting plate. So once the mounting plate is in place on the wall, then this will just get dropped onto it. So that should work pretty well. Next step.
There you go, chicken.
So the plate is gonna mount like that. You can see how it's gonna snap into place. Unfortunately, the Bose instructions do not include any dimensional information whatsoever. So I'm trying to make this install as snug as possible to the TV, but there is no information about like that measurement in order to do this tightly. So I'll figure that out and talk about it. So this is my basic intended install. The soundbar is going to go underneath this television. That's where the mount needs to go, is underneath. To mirror this, I've created a simple diagram which measures the width of this opening, and then the dimension of the soundbar, which is 21 5/8, which gives me 6 1/4 inches, a little more than that, on both of the sides. So I know I'm going to come in 6 1/4 from each side. I don't know how I'm going to mount it to be perfectly the height I want, but I have an idea. The real dimension I need is not the width of the sound bar, but the width of the mounting plate, which will eventually determine where the mounting plate goes, which will determine where the sound bar goes. The mounting plate itself is 5 1/4 inches long, and it appears that the holes are Well, we'll deal with that in a minute. Okay, so for me, my wall is 34 1/4 inches. The plate is 5 1/4. That leaves me with 29 inches. So I need 14 1/2 inches on each side of the plate. So I decided to buy a level. And also, we find that the distance from the center of the mounting points to the top of the unit is roughly, call it 1 1/4 inches. So if I went down 1 1/4 inches, then I'd be flush. But the problem with that is that if you're flush, then you can't put the sound bar on top of the unit. That is to say, if the plate was placed there, I wouldn't be able to get in on it unless I raised up the TV. So I'm still gonna put the sound bar about, I don't know, 1 inch or so underneath the point of mount. So in that instance, we've got 1 1/4 inches, so I'm probably gonna drill at about 2 1/2 inches down from that location. So again, 2 1/4, as you can see, is roughly the center point, and then that gives me about 1 inch above the sound bar to drop it down. So I've marked a spot 2 1/4 inches beneath the television to actually do the mount. And now I can take this, and I've measured off the side distances, and I want to put my holes, well, I'm going to have to extend my line left and right to make it more obvious where to drill. Using my level, I've created a line that is 2 1/4 inches across, down 2 1/4 and all the way across from one edge to the other edge of the mounting plate. Now I can take the mounting plate, and I know that that center line is where I want to drill in both places. So now I know where to put my holes. I'm going to mark the center line, the hole locations, and then I'll drill them. Okay, I've marked the center, roughly the center across those two lines, and now I'm going to drill at those two locations for the plate. So using this incredibly cheap $16 Amazon handheld USB powered drill, I've made a couple of small pilot holes. I'll now expand those. Okay, so now I'm inserting the drywall studs. I put one in, I've expanded the holes, and here's the second drywall stud, and now I can put the mounting plate on and then screw that into place. So I'll do that next. Holes in the mounting plate, I have some slack. I can check to see if in fact there's enough room on each side for this to be flush. That is to say, if it's placed on center. So I'm going to measure left side and right side and find out if this is in fact centered. Okay, I've got 14 5/8 on both sides. Probably should check to see if the mount itself is level. I'm a little late for that, but let's see how I did. Truth comes out, not perfect, but pretty damn good. Next step would be to wrap up the wiring and with some twist ties, and then put the sucker on there. So I'll do that now. So I wasn't able to show the actual mounting moment because I only have two hands, but I was able to put it in place, and we got a fairly clean install. The two wires are visible, but not terrible, and not visible from back where you watch the TV. And we are dead on level, so I'm quite happy about that too. Anyway, Only other thought is make sure that you change the TV setting so that the output is just to the audio optical and not to the regular crappy speakers that force towards the back of the TV. Thanks. Finally, I've never figured out what this rubber pad was for, and since the mount is removed from the edge of the wall, there's no reason to use it in the back. So if anybody has any brilliant ideas about why that was included, let me know in the comments.